Well, you're still watching New Day on Signature TV. And our guest this morning for the interview segment is Umar Aminu Kalgo. He is a lawyer and a former Nigerian Bar Association Secretary, Burning KB chapter. Well, he's going to be discussing Supreme Court judgment and implications on Rivers State political crisis. Good morning, Umar Aminu. Can you hear us clearly?
I can hear you clear.
All right. When the news of the judgment by the Supreme Court, when it broke, tell us exactly what your thoughts were and some of the feelings and emotions that you had to go through, listening to the court judgment.
Well, the judgment is very crucial, and it goes a long way, firstly to the issue of obedience to court orders. As you can see, the judgment is predicated about the already judgment of the Federal High Court that ordered the Rivers State governor to represent the appropriation bill. So I would say, in terms of the rule of law, it's a critical law that sends signal to politicians that and everybody in the country that flattering court orders will always be able to catch up with one. So that is on the one side. And another dimension which make it very critical, this is a judgment that ordered the withholding of the allocation of estate. By that, you can see the magnitude of that judgment is so great that creates a great interest in the nation on seeing how this will unravel in the days to come.
A lot of people have come out, including legal luminaries like yourself, have actually come out to say that as regards the National Assembly or House of Assembly members who defected a while ago, some legal luminaries have come out to say that they actually relinquished their positions after they defected to APC, which is evidenced by court affidavits and rallies and things like that. Still, others are saying that it is only seen as defection when the court of a competent jurisdiction says it is so. So in this aspect, do you think that the governor of Rivers State was too fast in his actions, given the fact that no court had actually come out to say that these guys had actually legally, relinquished their seats? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, my thoughts, I think they are sealed, because now we already have a judgment of the Supreme Court that have said that these members are still valid members of the House of Assembly of Rivers State. So it is the duty of every Nigerian to regard them as such. With that, looking at the press briefing given by the Honorable Commissioner of Rivers State, from his own, on his own account, he was really highlighting another leverage they think they have concerning the issue of defection. And he clearly stated that the matter is before the court. So if the matter is before the court, no one can now further discuss it. We just have to wait and see if that matter that is before the court may declare whether they have defected or not. So I think that's the position as we stand now.
Now, as regards the stand of these lawmakers, the case is still with the Federal High Court in Rivers State. Do you think this current judgment by Supreme Court will have any sort of impact on the ruling that may come, or the outcome of the ruling from the Federal High Court in Rivers State? Are there any direct implications, whether negative or positive, that might occur based on the the judgment of the Supreme Court?
As I said, if a matter is sub judice, is before the court, no speculation or opinion can be given as regards to that. So I think it will be jumping the gun and specifically being a lawyer to make any comment on that. But to me, what is there is the judgment that we had from the Supreme Court. It's not a debatable issue. I think what everyone is worried about is the extent of that judgment, so that how is the Rivers State governor is going to cope with what is stake at the present moment, so that the people of Rivers State can have a smooth, transition of seeing this judgment come to stay without much hardship on the people. I think that's where one has to think. And we find ourselves in a very, situation that is confusing. And at times, these situations come by because of some of the things that were neglected earlier on. You see, the neglect of, submitting to the court order initially have brought us to this stage. So that's why we are having a confusing state of affairs as far as River State is concerned.
Right. What would be your advice to the government of Rivers State? How would you advise them going forward? Because there are actually three aspects to this judgment: the issue of the local government dissolution, legitimizing the government, the Martins Amiefule team, and also about halting state allocations. Now, in terms of halting the state allocations, you think the Supreme Court actually followed the rule of law? And how would you advise that Rivers State government, how would you advise they go about, with governance, given the fact that their allocation has been halted by the Supreme Court?
As far as the judgment of the Supreme Court is concerned, the governor of Rivers State is duty bound to obey it. But going to that, I think my advice in doing so would be for him to kickstart the issue of election into the local government chairmanship and council in local government council in Rivers State, because that entails certain procedures which are time limits. They have time bounds. So starting it earlier will make it possible so that the local governments, maybe election as soonest, could be conducted, so that legitimate chairmen could be spearheading this local government. Because as it stands now, we have the ones that are elected, they have been declared a nullity. And with the earlier Supreme Court judgment that said that caretaker are no more legal, no one can do them. So you see, we have an empty space, a vacuum, which ought not to be, because in leadership you cannot have a vacuum. But due to the flagrant non-observance of the law, we have found ourselves in this state. And politically, I would say, it's a good option for the governor to kickstart this as early as he could, so that this election can go. And with his politicking and with his power, if those people have the backing of the electorate, they could even be elected again. So I think this is one of the things that need to be done. And with that, the local government can get their shares of the allocation from the federal government, because with the law now, they could be credited directly from the account. And maybe if you have legitimate elected chairman and council of the local government in Rivers State, nothing will stop the federal government, the accountant general, from allocating what is there directly for the local government. So that's the first of it. And on part of the House of Assembly as well, is just for it to reconstitute with these members going back to the House, 27 members, with the other to continue with their sitting, and for him to broker a political solution, especially regarding the appropriation bill, because everything is going to stand still in River States without an adequate appropriation bill to spend and cater for the people of River State regarding health, regarding all aspects of life. So I think here is where the politicians have to have in mind the welfare of the electorate and citizens, and irrespective of their partisan rivalry, to see that they have forged ahead so that a speedy passage of our appropriation bill for this year, 2025, is done when we are well into the first quarter of the year already almost gone.
Then, given the fact that the Supreme Court is the apex court and that her judgment is final, is there even a legal ground to pursue an application for review of judgment? Has there been any situation, in history where judgments by the Supreme Court were reviewed and probably overturned? Is it a possibility in this case with River State?
First of all, I think for us to talk about this case, this question can be viewed in two perspectives. You see, we can look at it in general terms. Is there a possibility to review the judgment of the Supreme Court, not necessarily regarding the judgment at hand? Yes, there is that possibility. And also, there are certain principles in law that are of general application. Whatever court pronounce a judgment, if a party can come to the court with facts that can show that that judgment was reached per incurium. What we mean per incurium? That it was reached when the court was not aware about certain statute, that if the court was aware of it, that judgment would not have stood. So in such situations now, you see, one can go to whatever court, whether it is Supreme Court or whatever, to now go on this question of a judgment that was reached per incurium. But that is a possibility. But with regard to this case, I think any action taken to further, allow for passage of time while River State in this is still in this stagnant situation, is not going to help matters. So the best option, I think, is to me now, because there's no review before the court, I think I can give my opinion. I think it is not going to be a wise idea to revisit this issue before the Supreme Court. There are a lot of times when lawyers try to do so, and without good cause to do so, the Supreme Court was heavy-handed on them concerning their actions. So I think even lawyers, not any lawyer will now rush to the court with such kind of things unless he is fully sure that he has the law backing at his hand and have good reason to do that. But when you look at the situation on ground, to go for such a thing while River State is there without allocation, while there is no House of Assembly functioning going, so I think it's going to be a waste of time, and it will take a great toll on the people of River State.
The Martins Amewule led group in the State House of Assembly has actually convened after the judgment, regardless of the fact that the suits with the River State government was still active in the Federal High Court in River State. How do you see that move? Is it illegal, or they convened a little bit too early, given the fact that they still have an active suit in the federal court sitting in River State? What are your thoughts?
It's very illegal. It's apt, because that's what the judgment of the Supreme Court has clearly pronounced that they are the valid elected members of the House of Assembly. With regards to the other case, well, it can take its toll. Let it continue before the court until such time when the court reaches a decision. That's when it is going to be something to consider. But now there is no any judgment, only proceedings that is before the court. When you look at the situation, I think looking at our House of Assembly, there are laws that have that the High Court have cited, the Supreme Court have cited concerning the issue of houses of assembly in Nigeria. We need to know that the houses of assembly in Nigeria, they have a composition, and that composition is they must be, the minimum number is 24 and up to the maximum limit of 40 members. And looking at that also, there is a quorum. There is a quorum, and the quorum for any House of Assembly to take any valid decision is 1/3 of all the members. So you can see with that the members that were already there as valid members cannot even constitute a House of Assembly, as at the time when the governor
During our proceedings on Thursday,
presented his appropriation bill. So there are a lot of things that's come by way of seeing how these things were transparent. The only thing is to
refer to the Legislative House's Powers and Privileges Act 2004.
Right trajectory of governance, where there is a functional House of Assembly, a valid appropriation bill, and a duly elected local government council. When this is on the ground, let them continue with their partisan politics. Nothing will stop that. I think that's what ought to be done, but not to engage in partisan rivalry, which can now hinder having a good functional government in Rivers State. I think this is the concern of most of Nigerians. When we flag, that's why this matter is being overflogged regarding this issue. Because when you look at it, to withhold the allocation of a state is not a simple thing. So it will go a long way when you look at our states. That is the lifeline mostly of these states concerning all the issues of governance, welfare, health, education, whatever you can think of that affects the public life.
You did advise that the River State government should pursue an election, a local government election, seeing that the one that been, that was done earlier was annulled by the Supreme Court. So my question would be, where would they get the funding for this election, seeing that the allocation has been caught by the Supreme Court?
I think that would be it's the call of the governor, but I don't think it's something that's going to be very difficult. Looking at the River States, that is one of the states that will have a very good base of internal generated revenue. And I am not the one to advise the governor on the finances, but I think there are a lot of options which he can choose to take in the choice of banks and whatever, what have you, could be leveraged upon to see that such things occur. And I don't believe that now River State is in such dire situation of severe want of funds. River State, if I'm not mistaken, I think it had the highest allocation from the FAC. So I think it's not going to be a problem. That's the way I see it.
Some lawyers have actually called for the sack of the Attorney General of Rivers State, citing the fact that he has been advising Governor Fubara wrongly that led him down to this path. What are your thoughts on that?
I think this goes to personal issues, which the governor have to consider. No one can say that these things are legal, because in politics, a lot of things come to play. Loyalty is there. And let me be on record that wherever somebody has reasonably acted with good integrity, nobody is perfect. Mistakes can happen, but I think politicians are aware of what matters. Loyalty is very key, because they are by nature, it's an endeavor that is vested in a legitimate bias, which is partisan. So it is always good to have reliable persons. But I think this will not just go down on the Attorney General. I know that issue is there, but I think that will be a personal call and consideration, which we may look at it from this angle. I think for one to be informed, to be able to advise on such issues, one need to personally know the relationship between the governor and the Attorney General, and how really these aspects have gone down. Now, who is there? Who would know what really the Attorney General advised the governor? Maybe his advice is contrary to what is happening. The governor is not obliged to take his advice. So I think it is going too far in, sorry to say that, but I think it will be in a rush to suggest something like that, because there are a lot of things to happen for one to be internally in the issue before one can offer such advice.
All right, thank you so much. It is not any news that the Martin Amewule-led assembly have actually made moves, whether covertly or overtly, to impeach the sitting governor of Rivers State. Now, given that background, how would you advise Governor Fubara to tread rather going forward, with this new court judgment, given the history that he has with the National Assembly, or rather with the State House of Assembly?
I think politicians know better. Today you will see them in a very staunch bravery, when tomorrow you will see their forces aligning. I think at this juncture, being bold to accept the judgment and to approach these members is not out of the way. I think politics is about give and take, and looking at the situations really and taking advantage of it. So I think they have a rallying point. The governor have a rallying point of extending a hand to these gentlemen, but particularly when you look at what I have earlier said, they should look at the people of Rivers State interest. I think it's a very good ground to extend hand and achieve these things. The issue of impeachment is not going to be easy. When you look at it, when you have a rank trajectory, it always leads to some confusing, situations also. Now, look at it. If this impeachment is going to go on what grounds? Because if they solely base their impeachment upon this issue that directly affected these members pertaining to their campaign and what have you, it will lead us to another kind of situation. I'm just entertaining this thought, because in law there are a lot of principles. There are principles of natural justice, which are the highest principle in law, that no one can sit as a judge over his own cause. So I am starting to entertain, what if the very, because what boils in their mind is the issue of their defection and their declaring that they are no more members of the House. If they base it on that, you see, it will now bring us to a situation where maybe the speaker, the members will be sitting on their own cause, though impeachment procedure has to do with the chief judge of the states, who would now create the 7-member committee that will, first of all, see if there's any reason to embark on such a procedure.
I would like to ask you a general question right now. There's a very popular trend in Nigerian political ecosystem where political godfathers and their godsons, they tend to fall out after the godsons are probably, put in there as governors. Now, what do you think that trend is, and what is the way forward, given that it has disrupted a lot of governance in some of those states? What would be your advice, and why do you think that trend is?
I think politicians should be well educated about politics, because that's the natural aspect of politics. I could remember, I have long ago known that there is a statement regarding that on one of the philosophers known as Ibn Khaldun. He said that always the kingmakers, whenever the king becomes king, he first dealt with the kingmakers. And that issue is very direct, because there can only be one Caesar at all times. And that's a rule in politics, as we know. But whenever the kingmakers tend to feel that they too are Caesars, then there must be a clash between Caesar and the kingmakers, for Caesar to be Caesar and the kingmakers to know that they are not Caesar. This is just the very fact. And wherever a politician, whether he's a godfather, you put a person in power, you should know that he is now the Caesar, and you should know how to tread. The best way is to allow him do his duty, because now he has a huge responsibility on him. But the moment one tries to, and apart from that, even without that, the other politicians down the strata will always want reason to be relevant. So this rivalry at times, whether there is no cause, they will cause it so that they can get closer attention by saying this is your rival. So it's something that others gain a lot from down the strata politically when there's rivalry between two giants. So these are some of the major things that are happening. Well, although not a political, I didn't study political science, but they are there for everyone to see. And the smaller thing one can know is that they are occurring consistently to show that this principle is always correct, that when you have a Caesar and the kingmakers feel that they are the Caesars, there's always going to be a clash for Caesar to be Caesar.
All right, Barrister Umar, thank you so much. But before I let you go, are there any other advice or information that you want to drop for the government of Rivers State, be it legal or otherwise? Just any other thoughts generally that you want to drop in form of advice or whatever, submission? Let's just have it in a minute or two.
I just want to recap that the governor should speedily start set election of local government in pace, and also he should endeavor to present another appropriation bill before the House of Assembly of Rivers State, using all at stake to see that an appropriation bill is there, not just for the governor, but also the so-called victorious members of Assembly. The 27 should have the people of Rivers State at stake. Let's have a valid appropriation bill so that spending can go for the welfare of the people of Rivers State.
Barrister Umar, it was really a pleasure talking with you. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Save Nature TV. News in your pocket.